We know how rapidly things change with Donald Trump, and markets seem to be suggesting that as long as there's enough seed planting, maybe Donald Trump will wake up one day with this magic idea of reciprocal tariff reductions. Nobody will have given him that idea, of course. It will be entirely his idea. And then we can actually get out of this insane uncertainty. This, of course, coupled with enthusiasm over potentially a Ukrainian ceasefire, has created some real optimism for the economy, at least in markets today. Now, does that necessarily mean the broader economy is optimistic? Not necessarily. In fact, we do have some leftover problems that we have to talk about, and I think it's worth addressing them one at a time. First, Bank of America noticed that usually yields and the NASDAQ going down together, as opposed to going up together or one up, one down, doesn't put us into a very common place. In fact, this has really only happened these times over here, these 4 times. You do have a couple edge scenarios here, but you'll find with the labeled dates, we're actually more similar to where we sat in 2000, 2002, and 2008 than where we sat in the mid-80s or the mid-90s, where people saw soft landing or enthusiasm in markets, the recovery of 24, of 2009, of 99 leading up to the dot-com bubble of the mid-70s, of 2022 where we hit bottom. We didn't actually relate to any of, or we don't currently relate to any of those. In fact, we relate more to the pain of the dot-com and great financial crisis, which isn't fantastic. It's also not fantastic that consumer sentiment absolutely plummeted today to a level that we just haven't seen before. I mean, this morning with course members, when the consumer sentiment numbers came out, we were joking. We're like, oh man, are we ready to see Rick, start going off about how bad these numbers are? Oh, this is the worst since July 2022. And sure enough, that's exactly what he said. It was comedy. It was great comedy this morning, but they were really shocking numbers. In fact, the numbers were so shocking that we haven't actually seen numbers this bad on consumers' optimism on the labor market since basically any prior recession. So look at this. What are the numbers similar to? Well, they're similar to COVID-ish. COVID was a little unique because it's so rapid, right? You don't really forward look expectations. So you don't actually really have that brown line, which is the brown line is the University of Michigan, and then the gray is actual payrolls. So you actually, let me correct that, not since COVID. The last time you've actually seen expectations sour this much was in the Great Financial Crisis in 2001, in 1991, in 1982, and in 1980, which I hate to say it, but what do 1980, 1982, 1991, and 2008 all have in common? Which is the same fat warning sign we're getting right frickin' now. Recession. Now, this is just one chart, so you have to take it with a grain of salt, take a deep breath. People's expectations can change. We know this. Now, a lot of people also look at this University of Michigan sentiment survey and they suggest, oh, well, that's a biased survey. It's over amplifying the opinions of Democrats, but that's okay. We actually have a number for specifically that. As you can see here, Democrats are the light blue line and Republicans are the dark blue line here. And what you'll find is in each of the categories, you actually had a substantial downturn in consumers' outlook. In fact, commentary suggests that consumer sentiment slid 11% this month, with declines consistent across age, education, income, wealth, political affiliations, and geographic regions. Current economic conditions were considered little changed, but for the future deteriorated across multiple facets of the economy, whether it was related to personal finances, labor markets, inflation, business conditions, the stock market, everything. And it didn't matter whether they were Republican or Democratic. These were the highest inflation expectations in 32 years. Now, you know me, I don't actually think we're going to see a major second wave of inflation, mostly because I think if we dunk into a recession, we'll have the opposite. We'll have depression and deflation. Larry Summers today came out and suggested he sees a 50% chance of recession, and that risk grows over time. He not only tweeted this, but also went on to a CNN interview. I'll spare you of the interview. But he says that CEOs, consumers, and markets are looking for a stagflation scenario, but you might have a lot worse than the stag. You might end up getting, an actual recession here. But Larry Summers believes that recession risks, while they might be a coin toss today, the longer we have, as he says, somebody crazy driving the car in a crazy manner, he could stop and start driving normally. But the longer that happens, the more recession odds go up every single day. So Larry Summers not exactly the most optimistic. Also, if you look at corporate mentions of soft landing, they've plummeted. We used to say the word soft landing a lot. In fact, almost throughout all of 2022, 2023, and 2024, corporations mentioned soft landing a lot in their earnings calls. Those mentions have absolutely evaporated in January and February, and U.S. policy uncertainty is at levels we have not seen in quite a long time. In other words, uncertainty is very high. There are also little early warning signs, such as people spending less money when they go get gas on snacks or miscellaneous goods at the gas station. Walmart is complaining about people spending less money on larger purchases at the end of the month, suggesting budget tightness. Tiny bottles of liquor are seeing their sales way up versus larger bottles. Last-minute bookings for flights are down, labor market stress is easing, and frankly, keep this in mind, while everybody likes to talk about unemployment claims, they lag like crazy, especially since it takes time for people's severance to wear off and for you to even become eligible, if you ever will be, for unemployment insurance. On top of that, it is worth remembering that you are seeing a cautious mood from corporates. At JP Morgan's annual conference, companies said that people are stretching out their timelines, including 3M and other manufacturers, saying that people are taking longer to accept delivery for their products. They're asking for delays and a lot more. I personally don't really love the whole Dow theory, but there is a Dow theory that the Dow Industrial Average can basically, be confirmed to be trending towards a recession when you look at the leading indicator of the Dow Industrials falling, the Dow Transport Index falling. Both of them have been falling. The Dow Transport Index is down about 17% since November, and the Dow Jones Industrial is down about 7% since November. Both of these falling together, the transport's falling more, suggests that there could be more pain ahead. However, I don't think this is a very reliable indicator, and today I don't really think of it as super useful anymore, just because we have so much of our economy based on services spending today. Klarna filed for IPO, and what's interesting about Klarna is if you look at their earnings, it's actually kind of funny. If you look at their 2023 earnings, they had 69 cents of earnings, and they're like, nah, let's not IPO now. If you look at their 2024 earnings, they had 1 penny of earnings per share. So in other words, they went from negative 69 cents per share, good one, to positive 1 cent. And as soon as they got to positive 1 penny, what happened? All right, boys and girls, it's time to IPO. I mean, good for them, but here's the document. For the year ended 2023 or 2024, you can see that EPS right here. Loss of 69, gain of 1 cent. Ding, 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 time to go public. Brilliant. I think it's funny. Anyway, our yield curve spreads, though, are still only at 29.5, suggesting we're nowhere close to shock or credit stress. Some people are talking about some levels of stress increasing. I'm not really seeing it just yet. It could get worse. It always can. So we're not seeing the signs of true recession panic yet. And this is why I keep saying, a lot of this decline we're seeing in the stock market, in my opinion, is not based on a recession being priced in, but rather it is based on the true worry about tariff uncertainty. Again, not recession. So that's my take.